Salam and good evening everyone and everything. Please come closer. Perfect. You guys are looking wonderful today, might I add. So I have quite a few things, a lot of fine wares if you will, that I pushed to one side as we were clearing out this first ring of worlds. And luckily for me, after locking Traverse Town's keyhole, the chipmunks will slide into your DMs to remind you that they are in fact in this game, and tell you that the Coliseum is finally hosting one of those much ballyhooed games, so what better place to pick up the crumbs that fell through the cracks. We can get straight over there with our sick new warp drive, letting us skip any Gummi route we've already cleared, and find some information on the brand new Fill Cup. I know at a glance that those aren't words because the top seed and the bottom seed say the same thing, which definitely isn't actually the case. Hey Phil, am I a hero yet?
2 words. You're gonna go to the stadium and you're gonna be put through the work out of your life.
First thing I'm gonna hit on is limits. Cloud gave us one the last time we were here. Fitting, as they're technically a mechanic introduced in his game. I mean, they were kinda in 6, but no one called them limits till 7. They're basically special attacks, and here they're on the same thread. Powerful combos calculated based on your strength stat, but which expend magic to use. Sonic Blade costs 2 MP and is a powerful technique, packing tons of invincibility frames, piercing foes, stunning most non-boss enemies who survive, and guaranteeing a critical hit with every strike. We haven't gone over those yet, mostly because they haven't done anything yet, but every normal combo finisher has a chance to be a crit. For Sora, the odds of which, as well as the bonus damage dealt, are determined by... look at this, yes! Keyblade keychains. We got the Jungle King keychain from clearing Deep Jungle. It makes our Keyblade longer, stronger, and makes julienne fries. It's not a direct upgrade. It has a lower crit rate than the Kingdom Key, which doesn't matter yet but is worth keeping in mind, and it also has a lower recoil stat. I told you we'd come back to that one. Every blockable attack used by every enemy has a recoil stat of its own. In the event that you parry it with your Keyblade, the two stats are weighed against each other, and the difference is used to determine how Sora reacts to the clash. If the attack he blocks has a recoil stat of 40 points or higher than his Keyblade, he'll be like, "Oh lord," and won't interrupt the attack, even if he does block the damage. On a mechanical level, I prefer Jungle King. Its longer reach is extremely practical, but the problem is, it's just not pretty. What even is it, like a bone? I like the keychain itself, that it's one of those "you'll be in my heart" butterflies, but otherwise, it just cannot compete with the Kingdom Key's iconic silhouette. Back to Sonic Blade, it's a tremendous asset, doubly so in the Coliseum as Phil's added a new rule to his list. No summons. Sorry Simba, you definitely ain't a true hero. It can clear entire waves by itself if you can control it, or do absurd single target damage. I like to imagine Cloud taking the time to teach Sora his signature move, even if all he did was just kinda hand it to him. Use it wisely though. MP is a valuable resource in this 9-battle gauntlet. Namely, Cure is our best way to keep it from being as much of an endurance challenge as the preliminaries. On the subject of healing, I gotta address Donald here. Even if you've never played Kingdom Hearts, if there's one meme from the series that you know, it's that Donald is a terrible healer. This has never been true, or at the very least, it's widely exaggerated for the sake of the meme. As long as our quacky boy has the MP and also is alive, he comes in clutch way more often than not. The problem is, he's definitely not always alive and tends to use his magic pretty greedily. However, you have a surprising amount of control over his AI through the customization menu. Crank down his use of offensive magic and he'll keep it handy for support. Keep him from using regular attacks and he'll be better at keeping his distance in battle. Listen, I love making the jokes too, but try out the tools the game gives you sometime and you might be surprised. Both Donald and Sora got another support spell after we beat opposite armor, Arrow, the Power of Wind. It provides a temporary force field that dramatically reduces damage. It's nice, but it's not really gonna come into its own until later. I generally prefer to be more reactive with this sort of thing, especially given its cost of 2 MP. I just can't be sure when casting it that it's going to negate more damage than 2 cures, you know? There are a few kinda new enemies in here too. Red armored variants of the Hammerlegs, Gauntlets, and armored torso of Guard Armor. Behaviorally, there's nothing that sets these apart from that first boss fight. Though they do occasionally cast these weird phantom shadows, so that's fun. They may look threatening with their big hitboxes, but you know the drill. Show no fear and clank that soldier boy. Though there's not technically a fight against the conglomerate Red Armor in this game, Jiminy's Journal still treats them as a single Heartless, and notably does not track the number defeated. I suppose because how would you even count that? For beating the armored torso and cleaning up that fill cup, we get another new spell, the Power of the Stars. Gravity is an interesting spell. It's kinda like Thunder, but with a smaller hitbox and slower to activate. In exchange, like its Final Fantasy counterpart, the damage it does is percentage-based and scales with the current HP of the target. At 5 MP, we'll slice off 65% of an opponent's current HP regardless of their defense. Not too much use against a Prismel, but invaluable against a large body. Unfortunately, almost all bosses are outright immune, which does include all these red armor bits. Still, a nice tool for our bag, and it always grants tech points against airborne foes, which is a nice bonus. Now, we could leave it there, but we have a chance to really put our skills to the test by re-challenging the Fill Cup, and taking it on with only Sora. Any impression that Donald and Glover aren't assets to the team completely falls apart when you try to fly solo. You have to be so much more careful when every enemy on the field is targeting you. It really comes down to prioritizing your targets. Always leave large bodies for last, so you don't activate their rage mode while still dealing with the mooks, and be sure to take out the gauntlets first in any battle they're in. You're gonna be forced to learn the ins and outs of when it's safe to use Cure here. A common pro tip is to jump before casting it. The slight edge in mobility means you're not as vulnerable to being interrupted as you would be on the ground. For clearing that challenge, you get a Combo Plus, an ability you may already have depending on which weapon you chose at the start of the game. It adds an additional hit to your ground combo. This isn't necessarily a direct upgrade, so don't be too gung-ho about slotting it in. It does make your combo do more damage overall, but it also increases the time between the start of it and the powerful finisher, which is often more valuable the sooner it lands. We can rematch the cup again, and this time with a clock attached. 3 minutes for all 9 rounds, so we have to average 20 seconds per batch, and that is tight. Let loose with everything you've got. I found Blizzard to be my best friend here. At 5 MP, it's strong enough to one-shot most of these enemies, so try to line up a good spread wherever possible. Use Sonic Blade to blitz down the hammer legs, a Gravity on the large bodies to speed them along, and in the final round, focus down the armored torso and let the mascots take care of the melodies. It's not going to be easy, but it is doable. That gives us a tech boost, which will increase the XP we get when earning tech points. Now that it's time to leave Olympus once again, we can stroke our egos a bit by checking out some of the signage around here. We can look into each of the enemy teams, which is cute, but apparently our group's team name is just Sora. I look forward to referring to the whole group as Sora in the future and just expecting you all to get it. With Sora back on the ship, it's time to set sail to parts unknown. These warp holes are our new target. They'll send us to new routes covered in new obstacles and, best of all, new music. Always love when a main route theme switches things up, it conveys such escalation. Worth noting, Sid's got a new Gummi shop back in Traverse Town. You can buy more firepower, thrusters, and even some nice customization options like the ability to paint blocks and an expanded library for blueprints. At the end of the day, these are still Gummi routes, but you might be glad for any extra firepower you strap on. Through the orange hole, you'll find 3 new blueprints: Siren, Remora, and Imp. Plenty of cool imagery and callbacks to some Final Fantasy enemies, as always. I'm really fond of the Final Mix Siren design. You can definitely see its roots here, but the original design cracks me up because they just made it look like a generic noise siren. Mission failed successfully, I suppose. The blue hole, on the other hand, may be the toughest thing I've yet encountered in this game. No, not the route itself, the ship's lasers cut through all this like butter, but the blueprints though. There are 5 on this route. Bombs are super easy, carbuncles and adamants aren't any issue. There are only 3 leviathans, but they're hard to miss, and I got one of their blueprints right away. But the last one? This is a death guy. Death guy?
And your name is? I'm Thor. You're Thor? Well, it hurts.
There are 4 death guises on this path, and for the life of me, these little ships won't drop their frickin' blueprints. And what's worse, they fly so far off the center of the course that even if they do, that's no guarantee you'll be able to pick it up. Gimme. No! It's mine, please. Please. Yes! Oh my god. Do yourself a favor if you're going for all the blueprints. Wait until we find these guys in more abundance before actually trying to hunt them down. Now, for the very first time since leaving Traverse Town, we don't have any choice on which world to tackle next. If we try to fly away from Agrabah, there's no getting around the warp holes. Yes, I am going to keep calling them warp holes. So, to the desert we go. Ah! Maleficent jump scare.
And the keyhole?
The Heartless are searching for it now.
Ah! Jonathon Freeman jump scare. Another legend who adored his role in the original film enough to reprise it at almost every request.
I'm certain we'll find it soon enough. So that just leaves...
Jafar!
Ah! Gilbert Gottfried jump scare. I don't need to explain who this is. You Gottfried damn well recognize those golden pipes.
Come on, everyone, take it easy on Seth. It's gotta be hard for him to do a roast, especially because the Simpsons haven't done it yet.
We missed you, buddy.
I've looked everywhere for Jasmine. She's disappeared like magic.
The girl is more trouble than she's worth.
You said you had things under control.
Agrabah is full of holes for rats to hide in. But why worry about Princess Jasmine? With her or without her, surely this world will be ours when we find the keyhole.
We need all 7 princesses of heart to open the final door. Any fewer is useless.
Well, if the princess is that important, we'll find her. Find Jasmine and bring her to me at once.
Don't steep yourself in darkness too long. The heartless consume the careless.
Your concern is touching, but hardly necessary.
Okay, we got a bit of lore to pick apart. Another piece of the princess puzzle, but the important takeaway there is watching Jafar command the Heartless. We don't know exactly when Clayton lost his heart, but he was clearly in command of the Power Wilds and Stealth Sneak by the end. It seems Maleficent is warning Jafar that he'll stumble into the same pitfall, which is really interesting. The Heartless take commands from those with darkness in their hearts, but also consume them in time. Their loyalty, the power they offer, is the sweet sap of a pitcher plant, drawing in powerful prey. We're dropped directly into combat with a new species, bandits. One of my favorites design-wise. Normally I'd be ambivalent to the final mix recolor, but it actually made them look a bit more like the guards from the movie, so I think it's an upgrade? They're nothing terribly special. Despite the fact that they are a bit more sophisticated with more range and the ability to block, it often feels like the world's specific Heartless are basically just soldiers in different costumes. But even if they don't feel that different to fight, the drastically different designs and animations give each world a stronger identity of their own. Of course, we'll encounter new shadows, which finally give us 2 XP, oh golly, oh how generous! But now we're basically just gonna explore around the streets of Agrabah and find what we find. We can also leave and wander so deep into the desert we can't even see the horizon, which is certainly ballsy of our trio, but obviously the city is where the action is. Now, if Wonderland challenged our puzzle solving and navigation skills, Olympus challenged our combat, and Deep Jungle challenged our mobility, what's Agrabah doing? Well, as the introductory world to this game's second act, it's here as the first world where all 3 really come together, and it is so strong for it. These streets are densely packed and vertical, swarming with Heartless as well as a plethora of treasures and navigational challenges. There are also plenty of pots and barrels all over the place filled with money, which is always gratifying, makes the world feel that much more interactive, but some of these pots have a nasty surprise in store. These are pot spiders. Not terribly tough, but they like to hang out in tight spaces and make a nuisance of themselves. I love mimics in all forms. It leaves you second guessing every pot you see, which I'm way into. We're supposed to go down to this alley, but if instead we climb one of these poles, we'll find a loft which will look extremely familiar if you've seen the movie, as well as a familiar character we can help out here. Ah yes, the old "it flew off to the desert, but we should stay here, my plot senses are tingling." Obviously we're a little out of sequence here, but what's especially strange is that if we leave and come back before advancing things, the peddler will just be big chillin' here, and as a fully functional shop to boot. Aw man, you're barely scraping by. Well here, I can help you out with that. There, how about now, huh? Oh, you're still barely scraping by? Well, I guess that makes 2 of us now. I think this is just an Easter egg, if anything, because this character only appears when you have no real reason to come up here. And in the movie, it's strongly implied that he and the genie are one and the same. I gotta say, area continuity is pretty much never better than it is here. It even does the Traverse Town Hotel thing, where loading zones in adjacent areas are still functional even if you get into them from out of bounds. You can see the street from the loft and the loft's window from the street. Each area has varying degrees of what is and isn't loaded in, but it's basically one giant model.
Who's there? Hello?
Jasmine, you dumbass, you know you are being hunted by otherworldly creatures. Why are you revealing yourself and telling us exactly who you are? I don't care how jaunty Sora's walk cycle is, you should be fighting for your life, you should be in disguise. Wise up, girl. And this is genuinely a writing pet peeve of mine. No one talks like this. Jafar caught me trying to escape, but he helped me. Yeah, get out of here. Pronouns are a matter of human decency and you defile them with your obfuscating bullshit.
Aladdin. Where might I find this street rat?
Jonathon Freeman really said, "Okay, I'll play Jafar again, but how many times am I allowed to say street rat? I can't overemphasize how much I enjoy calling people street rat. It just feels good to say on my snake-like tongue."
My dear princess.
Interestingly, he does seem to be emphasizing his S's a lot more than in the movie.
These little rats won't do, you see.
Jasmine, run!
Ah, the boy who holds the key.
Man, I can't believe the Heartless just betrayed Jafar like that. Just sliced him up right in front of us. Talk about anticlimactic. These colorful locks corresponding to gates around town are sort of like Agrabah's central gimmick. Some will lead to treasures, but mostly they just increase the interconnectivity of the area, which is always great. Now's the point where we're intended to find Aladdin's house and free the flying carpet. Oh really, Donald? Now you think we should check out the desert? You sure you don't want to explore the city a bit more? You know we're gonna take a good look at this room first. This half-cracked pot is pretty one for one, and so is this, bed, and of course the view of the palace, but that's about it. There is a secret lock tucked away behind this dresser over here, which opens this purple gate across the shutters, which leads to another ever-evasive dark matter, so we're gonna grab that before heading out. I'm guessing basically no one has ever seen what these things look like when they're reopening, so here's that I suppose. And oddly, they have the proviso of not opening if Sora's in front of them for any reason, which should essentially never happen. Carpet meets us in the desert, very obligingly. Man, you never get a chance to really appreciate this pattern in the movie. The Cave of Wonders imagery, the crossed swords, oftentimes he was CG'd in the films, and I can see why. Imagine drawing this every frame only for like 7 people to notice. Oh no, not quicksand. If I help him out of the sand, that'll be meddling. Oh, nope, never mind, they're Heartless. We're good, we can help out. Bandits have an environment-specific ability. Out here on the sand, they can burrow in and warp around. Doesn't make them that much more threatening, but it's still neat.
Gosh, not again! Genie, get rid of these guys!
Wish number 1 coming right up!
Did anyone else get, like, really pissed off at this waste of a wish? Did you not see how easily we handled the first batch? Genie, I better at least get the XP for that.
Legend has it that whoever holds the lamp can summon
Please, kid, leave the intros to a professional. The one and only Genie of the Lamp! Rub-a-dub-dub the lamp and have your dearest wishes granted. His winner is Aladdin! Congratulations!
Genie is voice acted by the one, the only, often imitated but never duplicated, Dan Castellaneta.
Patience, my fine feathered friend. Any 3 wishes!
Yes, though the late and great Robin Williams did adore the role of Genie, he was embittered towards the character because it represented a flagrant disregard for his wishes on Disney's behalf. The long and short of it is that the role was essentially designed for him, but he had some conditions on working for the mouse. He asked that neither his involvement nor the Genie be too central in Aladdin's marketing or merchandising. He didn't want to cannibalize the audience for the other movies he was involved with at the time, and he had ethical issues with lending his voice to shameless cash-ins and Happy Meal toys. By his account, Disney agreed, but then...
10,000 years will give you such a crick in the neck!
discovers a magic lamp.
Say the magic
and
word.
a genie who can make
I
all
wish
his
for you to
dreams
make me
come
a
true.
prince.
So in almost all cases, he refused to encore, including Aladdin 2, the TV show, and indeed, this game. Instead, Genie is voiced by the not quite as late, almost as great Castellaneta.
Then I make like a banana and our lucky winner made his first wish.
Even though he gives a wonderful performance, he's really let down by the animation.
So he has 2 left.
They're trying, they really are, but there's just no way this can compete with the show-stopping friend like me.
And I'll say,
Mr. Aladdin, sir, what will your pleasure be?
Even still, Genie is the most animated character in this game.
Oh, money, royalty, fame! Why didn't I get that? Okay, you asked for it. 100 servants and 100 camels loaded with gold. Just say the word and I'll deliver it in 30 minutes or less, or your meal free. Hey, I'll even throw in a cappuccino.
No thanks.
Okay.
I think I'll put that on hold until we reach Agrabah.
I wasn't sure when I was going to bring this up, but the juxtaposition with Big Blue is super stark. Most every character in this game has 2 models and animation rigs used for cutscenes like this. One that looks fantastic,
And She could never fall for a guy like me.
And then their in-game model with maybe 3 mouth expressions.
Oh, that's right!
As I understand it, this was done for space reasons. We didn't have the luxury of terabytes back then, so they had to be frugal where they could. And Genie over there probably took up a whole gig on his own, so I do get it. Most of the time I don't even notice as the characters stare straight ahead and lip flap, but occasionally it does throw a wrench in my suspension of disbelief. Aladdin joins the party. Mid-cutscene, we'll talk about him in a sec.
Fresh air, the great outdoors.
I guess you don't get out much, huh?
Comes with a job. Phenomenal cosmic powers, itty-bitty living space.
This is easily the closest any of the Disney worlds have come to retreading the movie plot beat for beat. I think I know why. Aladdin was just about the most popular film represented in this game, and they probably assumed people would geek out seeing as much of it played in 3D as possible.
Say, Genie, what if I use my last wish to free you from the lamp?
I'll do it. I'll set you free.
Or maybe it was a contractual thing. Either way, it feels a little patronizing.
You do that?
Genie, it's a promise. After we help Jasmine.
Okay, Aladdin joins the party. Before we get into his abilities, I have a cool tidbit about his design. Like Tarzan, there's concept art in the design doc that shows Sora dressed in his Arabian best, which I think would have suited him pretty well, although I know it is kind of an optics concern. Aladdin's the most physically oriented character we've yet fought with, ripping apart enemies with his sword techniques. He can't tank hits like Goofy and can't support you with magic like Donald, but there's no arguing with his damage output, which will especially come in handy against another new species of Heartless, Fat Bandits. They have many of the same properties as large bodies, but with the added threat of ranged attacks. They're rocking a couple weird properties too. Their belly becomes vulnerable when they're charging and using this fire breath attack, and if you defeat them in this state by whacking them from the front, they'll have slightly better drops. Alternatively, if you hit him with gravity while he's fired up, you'll stun him, get a tech bonus, and some extra HP orbs as a treat. The main avenues of Agrabah have been barricaded, and the only way through the city are the back streets, which is cool. Kinda feels like we're sneaking back in. The blockage to the palace gates are now clear though. I don't know why, there's nothing over here but a few Heartless to bash. What we need to do is go back to Aladdin, learn that Genie is a rare Disney denizen that knows about keyholes, and then the gates are blocked again. We need to work our way around via the bazaar to the right. If you're lucky, you might find some mushrooms about over here, but not the nice ones we've become accustomed to. No, these are black fungi. Only a handful of hit points, but the highest resistances of any Heartless, forcing all attacks to deal exactly 1/9 of their HP, except for gravity, which works as normal. They can turn stony and completely invincible for long periods and are a bit irksome to deal with, but you're well rewarded for your troubles with tons of XP. If you want the rest of their rewards though, you'll have to take them out with a combo finisher. With their weird health gimmick, that means you'll have to plan your combos to pull it off, and keep your allies out of the way somehow. Probably by summoning Simba, but honestly, in these cramped quarters, they're not worth the bother. When we do end up needing their materials, we'll farm them elsewhere. I did encounter an odd glitch though. After clearing these guys out, there was this sloshy, watery noise that persisted as long as I was in this room. I don't know. There's a blue trinity back here and another lock to a gate, and then it's on to the palace.
Setting your sights a little high, aren't you, boy? Back to your hole, street rat. I will not allow you to trouble the princess anymore.
Jasmine!
I'm so sorry, Aladdin.
Genie, help Jasmine, please.
One wish left. You're making this really easy, you know?
So sorry, boy. I'm afraid your second wish has been denied.
Huh?
I'm sorry, Al.
Wow, Genie kinda sucks, huh?
And now, I bid you all farewell. Attack!
Centipede is not a tough opponent, but he is a ton of weak opponents, consisting of the head and tail, which share an HP bar, and dozens of pot spiders. Now odds are, by this point in the game, you're a high enough level where you can kinda just face tank, heal, and repeat, mindlessly batting away until you win the war of attrition. But if you're not, or indeed if you're undertaking a level 1 challenge, then you'll find this fight necessitates a bit of careful strategy. Centipede has 2 forms. In his conjoined form, the pots in his midst will repel all attacks, but his own attacks are fairly easy to avoid. The tail will emit a constant decent hitbox, which can be inconvenient at the least, and the head will basically just use shock antenna over and over and over again. The nice part about this is, despite everything going on, he has a glaring blind spot right between his eyes. In the opening of the fight, bury yourself in that blind spot and bash away. Every few hits, he'll be stunned and he'll split into his separated form. This is where things get messy. Luckily for us though, he's gonna open up the arena. In a genuinely cool twist, Pot Centipede will break down the barriers between districts and turn all of Agrabah into one giant battlefield. Now here's the tricky part. While in his separated form, the head pursues its targets much more persistently, and it will spin, completely negating its blind spot. What you really have to worry about though is that all of its body segments, as well as any surrounding dormant pots, will become regular pot spiders when he separates, and they can really overwhelm you. Our number one priority is to deal with the army of ads and leave the head honcho be. Similar to Stealth Sneak, the best way to do this is to claim a bit of high ground and deal with the spiders when they jump up to you. Unfortunately, the dormant pots are unique, and can't be killed or awoken unless spurred into action by the Centipede. Here's my admittedly very silly strat. Head into the alley and steadily nudge this pot off the box leading to the upper ledge. This spot's gonna be our home base. If there are any spiders about, lure them somewhere secluded like this and dispatch them one at a time. Luckily, they have this dive bomb attack that'll thin their numbers for you if they hit a wall. If there are no spiders, take the Centipede by the mandibles and whack him in the forehead a few more times to stun him again. Rinse and repeat until you've shattered every pot spider in town. At this point, it's a simple matter of avoiding the Centipede's head while he's spinning, and get in a few hits when he eventually rejoins with his tail. I recommend you save all your magic for healing. While the spiders don't drop health, hitting them should give you enough MP to stay topped off, and that's all she wrote. A lot of cool details in that fight to do with Jasmine's incidental voice lines. Throughout the battle, you can hear her muffled voice calling out for help. Which pot spider these sounds emanate from seems to be chosen at random every time, the implication being that they're using her as the ball in some kind of mad shell game, but the lines will cease entirely once there are no more pots in play. Whether or not she calls out for Aladdin is also entirely reliant on whether or not he's in your party, sticking exclusively to help if he's absent.
Jasmine! To the desert! Come on, let's move!
In another case of curiously excellent cutscene continuity, there are 4 versions of that scene dependent on where you defeat the pot centipede. One for the palace gates, the main street, the plaza, and the alley.
To the desert! Come on, let's move!
The peddler's once again barely scraping by up in Al's house. Okay, look, I know the situation is a little urgent, but can we just talk polish for a sec? Look at the way the character's legs react to having one foot on 2 separate stairs. And check out Sora's shadow as he jumps. The way it fades the further from the ground he gets. Not just that, but it dims when he's in something else's shadow. What's really stunning is that, sure, giving the player character's shadow this much attention checks out, but seeing it applied not just to our party members, but all the Heartless as well? Yeah, this sort of thing is all part and parcel in modern AAA titles, but back in the early 2000s, this was leagues ahead of the crowd. Once again, this is something a little at odds with Kingdom Hearts' confused identity as a platformer. Something like Mario would forgo realism and give you a sharper drop shadow to more easily judge your position in 3D space. But I still have to appreciate it for what it is. If you, like me, have chosen to goof off in town for a bit instead of pursuing Jasmine, you can encounter a new rare Heartless in the palace gates. But this one's a bit of a game to even encounter. 12 pots sit conspicuously in formation, and each one we break gives us progressively more tech points. But hiding in one of them is the Pot Scorpion. This is another foe with his own rules. He's invincible to everything in his base state, and will run around spewing poison that your party members will walk into without a thought. The only way to deal damage is to parry one of his physical attacks, so either the charge or this tail jab, and as such, if you don't have guard yet, this can be a pain. Beyond that, he's not terribly unlike any other Heartless, though he does have a unique, much better drop pool if you manage to attack his pot last of all 12. That might sound like pure luck, but there's a really easy way to tell which one's him. Instead of hitting the pots, just run into them and see if they nudge to the side. The one that won't budge is our Arachnid, and the 11th pot has unique drops all its own. Honestly, if you're feeling underleveled, don't even bother with the Scorpion. Just come in here and farm pots. The encounter seems all but guaranteed if you run back and forth between Al's and the gates. A single cycle can take between 30 and 45 seconds depending on how long it takes to find the Scorpion. Factor in what I estimate to be no more than a 20% chance that the encounter won't spawn and you'll need to take the extra seconds to run back and trigger it again, and that comes to just over 220 XP per minute, plus the 100 or so money you get each trip, and it couldn't be easier. Okay, we've held off long enough, let's head after Jasmine. This shot cracks me up. The fact they got Donald doing a slightly hurried waddle in the background there. Okay, the Cave of Wonders is what I like to call a non-boss fight. You know, like that one ugly tree dude in Dark Souls that nobody likes. It has the appearance of a boss, but practically, the game's just dicking you around, which it has to do because if it didn't, the fight would be over in seconds. The cave's weak points are its eyes, which kind of share a pool of 380 HP, sort of have 190 HP each. It's weird, don't worry about it. Throughout the whole fight, they'll emanate dark lasers that look and behave pretty similarly to those of Stealth Sneak, but can be blocked and deflected. Behaviorally, he's a lot more like Cerberus, constantly cycling through the same sequence of attacks, swinging his head around, spitting out a batch of bandits, swallowing a load of sand, and launching it outwards in a hot wave. It's possible with a bit of platform finagling to jump up and reach the eyes for most of the fight, but the only intended opportunity is when he sticks his nose in the sand. If you're centered on his nose, the eye lasers are basically a non-issue, so you can shred his retinas mostly uncontested. While up here, he'll occasionally try and shake you loose, but the thing is, the game's not programmed with any kind of inertia, so all he can really do is mess with your camera. And it's here we get into those non-boss fight elements. Unlike most foes, the obstacles in this fight feel mainly like a result of the game itself working against you. From the janky platforming collision of the head, to the camera, to there being too many targets on screen to lock on to what you actually want to hit, to the hitboxes being too low to land a blow even if you are locked on. Between the lasers and the bandits flying everywhere, it feels like the devs wanted to make a platforming-centric boss fight, but realized that if the platforming is the main challenge, you kinda just win once you figure out the jumps. So they threw as much junk into the arena as they could to try and obstruct you. Now, if you try to focus the bandits, the eyes will get you, and if you focus the eyes, vice versa. Honestly, we're at a point where I could say of every boss, oh, if you're high leveled enough, you could just brute force with Cure, but if you're low leveled or on a level 1 challenge, etc. So do me a favor and just assume as much until I say otherwise. This was the first fight where I'd really felt the need to load down Goofy and Aladdin with potions and just pray, because it feels like a lot of luck. Hoping the bandits don't jump up and knock you off the head, hoping an eye laser won't just so happen to line up with the head movements, hoping you don't glitch inside the cave mid-fight. It's time to make a little luck of our own. The main problem with this fight is that there are simply too many bandits. Try and clean them out and he'll just spawn more. Try and ignore them, and they'll shred through your party members and swarm you before you finish off the eyes. Basically, the longer your bros can keep each other alive, the better your odds. In fact, and I know in some circles this is sacrilegious, but don't be afraid to cast Cure on them if you're the only one left standing. Now there is one advantage to being underleveled tied into a mechanic I've been neglecting to mention until now. Every enemy has their own MP recovery stat. This is how much MP charge you gain when you land a hit on them. It takes 30 to fill a bar, though it's not that straightforward. A soldier, for instance, has an MP recovery of 8, but you will never get 8 points because the amount you get from a regular attack is capped at 7. You earn double an enemy's recovery when landing a finisher, but that's capped at 15. However, all of this scales down the higher your level compares to this number. This is the only way I know of that Kingdom Hearts somewhat punishes you for being overleveled. I think it may even be worth considering this stat as the enemy's level. Essentially, as we get further into the game and encounter higher leveled enemies, as long as we're leveling on the same curve, magic remains at maximum sustainability. Exceed that curve and say, compare my level 30 Sora to the level 26 Cave of Wonders, and our powerful spells become that much less viable. But on a level 1 run, we're always guaranteed to gain the most MP possible per hit. So long as you keep up the offense, you'll be refilling your bar lightning fast. Last practical tip I can offer is always try to go up on the cave's right ear, as his left has an earring that does in fact get in the way. Also, dodge rolls, unintuitively, tend to work better than jumps for getting up top. It's worth noting he has a bit of desperation behavior when you take out one eye. He adds air soldiers to his pool of summonable Heartless. They're much better than bandits at reaching you on his head, so you may want to spread your damage across both eyes so as not to worry about them. Despite how harsh I was on it, I do like that fight. While no, I don't think it's well designed, it is a cool spectacle, worthy of his appearance in the movie. And there is one undeniably neat thing about it. His big sandy blast attack actually has friendly fire, capable of damaging, stunning, and even killing the Heartless he himself summons. It's a cool indication he's still fighting against the hold the Heartless have on him. The fact that the Heartless he upchecks emerge stunned also feeds into that idea, that he's not really fighting you, but is blinded in an immune response to these parasites. With him down, no real pomp pomp and circumstance, it's time to head inside. Welcome to the Cave of Wonders, one of the only places I might consider calling a dungeon in this whole game. This place is multi-layered, maze-like, and comes with a few Indiana Jones-style traps around the place. Of course, there's plenty of treasure we can gather, including this Mega Ether, and this one over here, which takes some pretty careful positioning with the barrel. It gives us, for the first time in what feels like ages, puppies! One by the grandfather clock, and one on either side of the fireplace. Nothing major with them, but on a return visit to Traverse Town, you may encounter a Sniper Wild in the 2nd District, encounterable now that we've beaten Opposite Armor. Sniper Wilds are at once the simplest rare Heartless we've yet found, and the most deadly. The rules are simple. Defeat as many Sniper Wilds as you can without them spotting you and sounding an alarm. They'll continually respawn, cycling between groups of 1, 2, and 3, and every 6th one has the good drops, up to a maximum of 30. They'll get progressively trickier as things go on, moving more rapidly, shooting random shots, and tossing out banana peels. If they do see you and you can't kill them before they call for help, they'll summon a never-ending stream of allies that will absolutely thresh you with their lightning-fast, unblockable shots. Your only real course of action is to flee. Frankly, we don't have the movement abilities to make more than 6 of them manageable, let alone all 30, so I wouldn't worry about them right now, but they are here. Gratifyingly, like all wilds, they are susceptible to their own banana peels, though this time the drops are negligible compared to their real rewards. And it automatically alerts them to your presence regardless of whether or not they can see you, so you'd better hope this doesn't happen. Back in the cave. Okay, so to break this area down, let's just take it one room at a time. We did the entrance, now onto the hall. Man, look at this place. Atmosphere here is exquisite. Considering this locale in the movie was just a staircase, they could have gotten away with doing so much less. We're gonna explore the lower areas in a bit. For now, it's worth noting that these stairs near the door we just came in through lead to a save point we'll be making frequent use of. You may want to make sure your party consists of the main half pints, because we're gonna find a couple trinities around here. A few more easy treasures to pocket around the hall, and the bottomless hall, though aptly named, is much the same song and dance. The last upper chamber is the treasure room, and this one comes straight from the movie, like 1-to-1 in this frame. Not so much full of Easter eggs as it is the entire Easter farm. Perhaps to be expected, it's filled with treasures aplenty, and unlike the movie, we're more than welcome to touch all of it. But, perhaps even better, more white mushrooms. These ones will have the fire, blizzard, thunder, and gravity emotes, so that's another arts in our pocket. The chests around here all take a little platforming to reach. This Thundaga-G in particular feels like a little bit of a sequence break. There's a red trinity which kind of blends in with the floor, and this far green chest contains another puppy trio. One more on the couch in the TV room, one under the table beneath the two troublemakers, and one on the windowsill behind Pongo and Perdita. Now about the lower caves. Let's make a map, it's gonna be the only way. The entrance is connected both by stairs and a bottomless pit to the relic chamber. A couple chests, one which takes a very precise jump to reach, and a jewel we apparently need Aladdin's help to interact with. The hall, as mentioned, connects to the dark chamber with the save point, but if you take the other staircase down, you'll find the silent chamber, which is basically only differentiated from the other cave chambers by its blue trinity. From the hall, you can also take a semi-secret path to the bottomless hall across this water trap, and find a very conspicuous block we can drop into the chamber below. Awkwardly, if we drop down from there, we land in the silent chamber, yet somehow the block landed in the relic chamber, enabling us to make this jump and reach the treasure I already reached anyway. The dark chamber contains a torn page, the first of many that are important to the old book we gave Merlin not long ago. But just like that old book, I'm leaving all that to one side for a while. That blue trinity in the other cave was the last one, so go ahead and switch Aladdin back in. Then we'll head back to the relic chamber. Now those caves, the dark, silent, and relic chambers, are all interconnected with these tunnels and waterfalls, which, counterintuitively, are fully traversable from either direction. The gang can swim upstream no problem. Oh sure Sora, you can do this, but not jump out of water. Back in the relic Getting tired of saying chamber. Back in the relic room, with Aladdin in the party we can send Abu to touch these glowing stones. In the movie, this is the exact same stone which nearly caused them to be buried alive, so if you've seen it and think that knowledge is transferable, you are a certified silly goose. Instead, these activate mechanisms in the cave. This one opens a secret passage into a sealed area of the dark chamber, and the one in there opens the way to the rest of the dark cavern proper. In the silent cavity, there's one more statue that opens a secret passage, but no amount of perfectly timed Keyblade swings will get us up to that ledge, so we're gonna have to remember this for later. The last foyer we can reach is directly next to that ledge. The hidden it says room! Ah, thank goodness. The only thing we can reach here is the pillar, and breaking it is the one necessary step to progress, as evidenced by the cutscene that ambushes us.
My first wish, Genie, show me the keyhole.
That unblocks the route through the other side of the treasure room, and puts a handy save point in there for us. Worth noting, there are 2 more ruby statues we can have a boo trigger, but they just launch us up to places we were already clever enough to reach on our own. I'll also use this opportunity to draw attention to the ray of light we got for beating Pot Centipede, which gives us an extra MP, and I'll unequip anything you want if it means I get more MP.
That boy again?
Woo! Check out the staging on this shot, with the cracks around the keyhole looking a little like devil wings at Maleficent's shoulders.
Why not explain the situation to that boy Riku? Doing so may actually prove useful to our...
Wait a second. Are you Maleficent?
Maleficent refusing to even give a word to Sora is such an ice-cold move. At this point, we're used to being talked down to, but ignored? Beneath notice? That almost feels worse.
Jafar, let Jasmine go!
Not a chance. You see, she's a princess. One of 7 who somehow hold the key to opening the door. But you fools won't live to see what lies beyond it. Genie, my second wish, crush them!
Genie, no!
Sorry, Al. The one with the lamp calls the shots. I don't have a choice.
Jafar, the Sorcerer Supreme, accompanied by the cosmically powerful Genie. Luckily for us, he's holding way back. His attacks are few and far between, heavily telegraphed, utterly lacking in persistence, and I could say the same about Genie. Jafar, Bubby, what are you doing out here? This is pathetic. At least for Genie, it makes sense he's pulling his punches. Although this fight is basically a foregone conclusion, Jafar does make a show of it. Flinging attacks of so many elements at us, warping around, hovering out of reach. He can even respond to magic by throwing up this shield that makes him immune to all spells. He'll spend most of the fight alternating between this laser beam attack and Blizzaga. If the former hits you, just heal it off, and the latter will never hit you if you avoid the center of the arena. If you don't bring the fight to him, he'll add in a few more close-ranged attacks like this shockwave or swinging his flaming staff at you, but he gets hit stunned so easily it doesn't even matter. Maybe Genie could have been some sort of X factor in a you're immortal but if this snail touches you, you die kind of way, but Jafar moves around so much that as long as you're chasing him, you'll stay out of Genie's reach, guaranteed. The only real challenge here is trying to pin down Jafar. Getting up on these ledges isn't like the easiest jump in the game or anything, but with how little threat any of the attacks pose, you essentially have infinite time to wear him down. Almost everything cool about this fight comes from Genie.
I'm really sorry about this.
He has so many unique behaviors most players will never see. If you're curious, he's considered an HP-less, defenseless, resistanceless enemy with 17 strength, and all 3 of his attacks have a power of 0, though they can't be blocked by anything but Goofy's shield. What's cool is that they all have the unique property of causing health orbs to drop if he lands a hit. 2 from your party members, but 6 from Sora. This smack attack he does can also have unique drops if it misses. About 50 money if he strikes dry land, or 12 MP if he hits the water. His swipe attack also has this snazzy particle effect if he sweeps through the water, which is a nice touch. He'll make a show of his distress if Jafar hits you, and sometimes his delight if you hit Jafar. It seems to be mostly up to chance, but it's possible when he's showing off his joy that he'll drop prizes. A bunch of HP, MP, and money. And extremely rarely, I think only if you manage to stagger Jafar several times in a row without getting hit in return, he'll drop large prizes. Clearly there was a ton of wiggle room in that command to crush us. If I were Jafar, I would be demanding that wish back. Not that the last wish he fulfilled for Aladdin went much better. Jafar's voice lines in this fight are also worth covering. These incantations he mutters are based on the likes of Abracadabra and Alakazam. The latter actually does have origins in Arabic. He says Zabaa Kabadabra when firing up his snake laser, which though pronounced differently, is taken directly from the Return of Jafar. His line for casting pretty much every other spell is, I think, Allah Kazambitafus, which, if we take a look back at Arabic, with a bit of stretching and cramming, could translate into an oath to victory. That's the best I got anyway. He also says something kinda like it in Return of Jafar, but that wasn't quite enough syllables to match up. Both he and Genie have a ton of reactive voice lines as well, based on which attacks they're using and whether or not your party dodges them. My favorite is if he casts his Blizzard and no one is hit by it.
Genie, don't hold back!
Also, I got this by accident, but it kinda worked in a meta way.
Wake me when it's over, okay?
Alright, that's enough. Let's push this pushover. fitting that the sorcerer would give us our first spell upgrade, turning our blizzard into blizzara. I like to think Sora was watching him cast this whirlwind of ice and went, oh okay, this guy's kinda cooking actually. Can I just say how glad I am Square made this game and not Enix? Otherwise we'd be casting stuff like swoosh and crack, and when I've gotta sell people on an RPG with Donald Duck in it, I'm just relieved I can talk about the spells without a glossary.
Genie, my final wish. I want you to make me an all-powerful genie!
Hey, so, the keyhole's right there. No one's bothering us. Wanna give it the old laser beam? It's a nice bit of extra effort that they animated Jasmine breathing on the ground here. Ugh, now Goofy, come on. Bad dog. That's no way to treat a princess. One last thing before we jump in. These gems high up in the chamber have this cool shimmering effect you're not likely to notice from ground level. Genie Jafar's lamp is a hot contender for easiest boss fight in this whole game. It's crazy, there's just nothing. This arena looks nasty, lava everywhere, moving platforms, but there's an invisible wall around the whole thing. You literally can't fall in if you try. All Jafar has for the most part is this massive, slow, shockingly short-ranged lava throw attack he'll do once every 3 weeks. Other than that, he can swing his little arms around at the edges of the arena, and if you're lucky, he might even dazzle you with some particle effects while he does it. His most dangerous attack, the same laser beam he had in his last fight, only comes out in an extremely specific situation you'll never see. If you smack his arm while he's close enough to the platform, he'll be stunned because he's just pitiful like that, and then he can respond with the laser eyes. I say you'll probably never see this because he and his lamp share an HP bar, and Iago is dreadfully awful at playing keep away. With no attacks of his own, you can just thrash him while ignoring Jafar's big dumb exercise balls. I don't know what happened here. I feel like this fight must have been dramatically changed late in development, which completely neutered it. I've got a bit of evidence to back up that theory. Jafar has the ability to cast Cure on Iago. Gilbert Gottfried even has a unique line he can say in response to it.
I don't need your help, alright?
But it does nothing. Absolutely bugger all. These torches have a hitbox, like you can really let loose on them as though they're interactable, but nothing. Jafar even has a unique stun animation that I'm fairly sure you can't trigger without being out of bounds. It's for striking his head, which I don't think is ever on our side of the invisible wall. Oh yeah, Sora can just walk on lava. He's hardcore like that. I'm honestly not even gonna give strategy tips on this one. I respect your intelligence too much. Instead, I'll skip straight to the cool extra details. Iago gets worn out and takes a rest on the ground every few minutes. If you hit him with a combo finisher in this state, he'll pay out a bunch of HP orbs. And if you manage to do it again in the same cycle, a bunch of MP. Very rarely, you might even hear Jafar scold him for taking a breather. Couple other baffling details. The top of this chamber has a loading zone attached to it, but it's one way only, simply re-triggering the cutscene in the fight if you touch it. Also worth noting, Jasmine is not hanging out up here anymore, and that might not necessarily be a continuity error. Though the lamp has a shield against all magic, Jafar himself can still be damaged with our new and improved Blizzara, which can be used to make even quicker work of him if Iago is hovering somewhere inconvenient. It feels weird to me that he has the same defeat animations regardless of which target receives the final blow.
Okay, Jafar, back to your lamp.
This kinda commits the cardinal sin of video game movie adaptations, in that it only makes sense if you've seen the accompanying film.
You wanted to be a genie? You got it! And everything that goes with it.
No!
Like, yeah, we got some of the same lines that got us this far,
It's always 3 wishes, then back to my portable prison.
but Aladdin's clever baiting of Jafar into using his final wish to turn into a genie was really the only thing that made this work.
Face it, Jafar! You're still just second best.
Without it, Sora just slurping him up here kinda comes out of nowhere. And that's that. I wanted to mention that it's interesting Genie Jafar didn't really get a boss fight, so to speak, in the film. He had to wait till the sequel to get his day. I was gonna point out that in that respect, Kingdom Hearts takes a leaf out of the sequel's book despite how many beats from the first movie were carried over into the game, but now that I think of it, he really didn't fare much better here, did he? Man, Jasmine's having a rough day. Crazy attention to detail though. These footstep sound effects are the same as Sora's, but slightly deeper.
Jasmine? Jasmine!
Blink and you'll miss it. While Sora's messing with the keyhole, you can see Aladdin off in the background, frantically searching for Jasmine.
Whoa, we better get out of here! Jasmine!
It's been a while since I've mentioned it, but yeah, Kingdom Hearts is still very much a metaphor for a visit to a Disney theme park, rarely better exemplified than by the magic carpet ride. This just feels like a roller coaster, not to mention that it literally is an attraction in the parks. When putting together this set piece in the movie, I think the animators had a Disney ride in mind to begin with, so this creates a sort of feedback loop that's unique to a multimedia empire. I can appreciate it, even while being swallowed up by its gluttonous gargantuism. This may as well be a roller coaster ride for all the input you have here. You can kinda tilt left or right, you can smack falling rocks with your keyblade. I did not know until recording this that you can press the jump button to do a barrel roll. It gives you a bit more lateral control, but still not significant enough to reach these holes over here, for instance. There are HP and MP orbs you can try your hand at collecting, but honestly, press nothing and you'll get to the end without issue. I could say that even if there were enough obstacles to prove a threat, since dying here has absolutely no consequences, and just warps you to the end of the course anyway. This area, simply called Escape, is really cool to see from out of bounds, almost as massive as the Vine Slider courses. They didn't hide much in the way of details to miss as you zip by, except for right here at the end with this neat bit of forced perspective with the cave mouth, and these cool symbols on the pillars which are taken directly from the film. It's time for a customary smorgasbord of cutscenes to close out the world. Obviously Aladdin wants to tag along with Sora and co to find Jasmine, and of course we're gonna say yes. I mean, we just saw how much of an asset his carpet was. Nope. Never mind, that would be meddling. A couple of you guys have been quick to point out, this is likely why the concept of the world order exists in the game. Essentially as a reason we can't just build up a whole party of Disney characters. Whether that's because of contractual limitations or technological ones, the other worlds are supposed to be a secret and the fewer people who see them, the better, yada yada yada.
Earth to Al? Hello, you still have one wish left? Look, just say the word. Ask me to find Jasmine for you.
But shove all that back inside your lamp holes, because what utter hogwash. Genie can come? What separates him from Aladdin for these purposes? That he's travel-sized thanks to his itty-bitty living space?
But if you can, it'd be great if you could go along with them and help Sora find Jasmine.
Why does Aladdin assume this is a solid pitch? Why is he right? Genie's obviously an ancient magical being who at the very least already knew about keyholes before we came in and blabbed, but I don't buy this. This Prime Directive Codswallop doesn't fly with me. Bring Aladdin along. Hell, if I were him, I would be utterly, inconsolably pissed right now. Hell, I'm pissed off anyway.
I wish for your freedom, Genie.
Al!
A deal's a deal, Genie. Now you can go anywhere you want. You're your own master.
Yeah, it's a great character beat for Aladdin. Just like in the film, he's a really strong role model of selflessness, giving up his final wish even after Genie assures him it's okay not to. But with the abbreviated story we have here, we never got the somewhat crucial scene of Aladdin deciding he might keep the wish. It's fine, we're almost done here.
That smarmy vizier could have had him. If someone had stuck around to give him a hand.
Hey, I did my part. I brought the princess, didn't I?
Jafar was beyond help, consumed by his own hatred. One should beware of letting it burn too fiercely.
Whoa, lighten up. I'm as cool as they come, okay?
That's another barb Maleficent throws at Hades. Again, this never goes anywhere, unless it's setting up something for a game that's still not out 20 years later. Why does this keep happening?
By the way, kid, have we got something special for you?
Huh?
We had a deal, yes? You help us, and we grant you your wish.
Kyrie!
Go to her. Your vessel is waiting.
Just remember, this is no pleasure cruise. It won't be a pleasant voyage.
Why are you doing all this for me? What's the catch?
Catch? What's the catch? Silly boy. You're like a son to me. I only want you to be happy.
I seriously doubt that.
It's honestly a huge relief for the player to see that Riku isn't totally buying into Maleficent's honeyed words. We know he just did something, like, objectively wrong, retrieving Jasmine for whatever scheme she has in play, but we also get to see why. She's promised him Kyrie. Sora might have done much of the same had the witch found him before Leon did. He's clearly on the wrong side, but it's hard to blame him for it.
Believe what you wish. But lest we forget, I kept my end of the bargain.
Another thing I didn't know when I was going to bring up, I want to address the pacing of these scenes. I'll give credit where it's due. In the English dub, they went the extremely extra mile and reanimated every character's lips to match their English deliveries. A common side effect of dubbing is that oftentimes the same sentence in English takes a lot less time to say.
You see, she's a princess. One of 7 who somehow hold the key to opening the door.
Open?
But that's not really what happened here. I can show you.
扉を開く力を持つ7人のプリンセスの
These awkward pauses are in every version of the game, and I've been cutting out most of them just to make things flow better.
What would you do there?
Suppose there are other worlds. Then ours is just a little piece of something much greater.
Hades promised to help. I tried to exploit the power of darkness.
I'm searching too.
For your light? Don't lose sight of it.
Honestly, I might not have even brought it up, but in the HD remasters of this game, for some reason, a lot of these pauses got even longer. I think this is the worst one yet.
And we grant you your wish.
Kyrie!
I swear, I did not loop the footage or slow it down or anything. On every modern version of this game, you just stare at Kyrie for 6 uninterrupted seconds. I have to imagine this is down to something that got tweaked in how the cutscenes access data, like when it swaps out those character models. But I'm mostly talking about it now so you guys know it didn't used to be this bad, even if it was never great. We got a ton of cool stuff now. A new summon in the form of Genie, which is a pretty clever way to incorporate him. A new keychain, my personal favorite of what we'll call the Disney Keyblade designs. I wonder if the keychain itself is actually the lamp, just shrunken down now that Genie doesn't need it, but I love this mahogany handle and the opulent color scheme. I've seen people theorize that the teeth are meant to look like an abstract number 3. I always wondered if it wasn't some sort of Arabic character though, and after looking into it, the best candidate is the Syriac letter H, though I'm open to suggestions as to why that might be. Unlike Jungle King, 3 Wishes is a direct upgrade over the Kingdom Key, having the same hitbox and crit rate, and even more strength. As its description suggests, it has a massive recoil stat of 60, the second highest in the game. Somewhere in there we also found our first pages of the Ansem report. They've been building this up since our first visit to Traverse Town. Let's see what we got. Honestly, as a kid, my eyes glazed over like 8 words into this, and as an adult, I'm not doing that much better. I like knowledge and the people I rule, I don't understand the darkness, I've seen it take over even the pure-hearted, I'd better learn about it to protect my people. You gotta sharpen up your prose, Ansem, this game's marketed at kids. Now, we could very well leave, there's a save point right here, but don't! If you skedaddle now, you'll miss out on some of the only incidental NPCs in this game, affectionately referred to by fans as Agrabanian Travis, Agrabanian Lady, and Agrabanian Waka. They're all reskins of other characters in this game, but I kid you not, this is the only time they will ever show up. And they all have their own unique dialogue, so you know I love them. Oh yeah, fans like to call this guy Travis, which I think is adorable. So I hereby declare we should call this guy Baghdad, spelled like this. See you never, Baghdad. There's also an unused model for an NPC who looks like he would have fit in with this crowd buried in the game's code. Ironically, he's the only one who doesn't seem to be a reskin, so I'm not sure why he was the only one left out. If we head to the desert, the Cave of Wonders is currently inaccessible, but the storage closet has a green trinity we've just unlocked the ability to use. That was the only thing mechanically worth hanging around for, so let's scarp her. Hey, whoa, hey, whoa! I'm the captain of this here vessel. I'm the one who gets to say it's time for a revisit to Traverse Town. You know what? Just for stealing my thunder, we're going back to Agrabah. Yeah, boo, I don't want to hear it. Check it out, we can make it all the way back to the lamp chamber, and there are a handful of unique encounters here. Man, this new and improved Blazara spell puts in work. We can basically one-shot anything but the big guys with it, and our upgraded Fyra ain't no slouch either. Alright, now we can go. There's a green trinity in every world we've been to. In Deep Jungle, it's in the treetop, camouflaging with the leaves, and while we're here, check it out. After beating this world, these magic flowers will behave a little differently. Once again determining whether or not the power wilds in here will continue to respawn, but now they bloom in a different color depending on which spell they're hit with. I also managed to destroy one on accident, which I didn't even know was possible, but it reappeared a second later, so I don't know. I tried getting them all to match, and that didn't seem to do anything, but that makes this fun little interactable all the more charming. Olympus has a pretty simple one by these banners, and there's a sign over here that name drops a future competition, which is neat. Makes this world feel a bit more alive. On top of that, our Blazara is cold enough to douse these Bratzers, which is pretty chill and nets us a cool Holy Gummi, the most powerful thruster we can get our hands on. It makes a noticeable difference. There are 2 more in Wonderland. Neither is especially thrilling, though you'll be glad of all this mithril here in a minute. Honestly, this is the part of an RPG I live for. Heading back to the past areas and putting everything that used to give us trouble in their place. Die! Die! I've actually got a pretty good strategy for Gigas Shadows now too. When they spawn, hit them with a Sonic Blade to try and stun as many as possible. Then go set up shop in the fireplace where they can't easily reach you, and just spam blizzards like it's Canada. Bish bash bosh, and there it is. All 7, no problem. I also have to clarify that only the last one you defeat will give you any rewards apart from tech points, but with this method, that shouldn't be a big deal. Alright, finally to Traverse Town. Our first stop is going to be the general store. Now, this kinda threw me. The nephews have 6 new weapons in stock, 3 each for Unca Donald and Auntie Goofy. I've been checking the store frequently, so I know I didn't miss any additions. These all came in after Agrabah. Donald's are all worth considering. The Magistaff is the popular pick, of course. More magic equals more good, but the Shooting Star is basically the Morning Star with the same strength as the Warhammer, which makes him extremely well-rounded. Then the Silver Mallet has the highest stat total of any of his weapons so far. Yes, you take the hit in MP, but a whopping strength stat of 7, and Donald will pack a surprising wallop. If you want him to save his magic for healing, this is probably the play. Goofy's Gigas Fist is going to be the new go-to on him, also with a massive strength stat. I don't want to downplay how powerful the larger shield's ability to block can be in the right situations, but that's just the thing. Damage isn't situational, so it's hard to justify the offense you lose with the bigger shields. Sid's stock has also updated. He now sells another upgrade to our inventory and ship NP, an upgrade to the size we can work with, a haste gummy, and 2 types of Isuna gummies, all of which are both extremely handy and dandy, and I'll be buying outright. We can take quite the death machine out into the lanes between now, but let's actually hit up what we've been pointed towards, the Green Trinity in the accessory shop. No, wait, Travis is selling some new accessories. Nope, these are kind of worthless. The ladder we drop down leads up to the Moogle Synthesis Workshop. There's one of those magic candles from the cafe in here. That lady outside actually had a throwaway line about them being made by the Moogles, so this is a neat bit of continuity. But I gotta put the rest on hold because these sick Moogles have 3 puppies in their captivity. The heathens, the fiends. These are some of the only puppies found in Traverse Town. You can't convince me these guys didn't take them directly from the puppy house. They'll strike again if we let them. Under the couch in the living room, on this cushion in front of the TV, and one more by the window seat. So, synthesis is our only practical use apart from selling for all those shards and stones and crystals we've been gathering on our travels. The more recipes we complete, the more we'll unlock. Materials permitting, we can make as many of each thing as we want, and on screen next to each material, I'll show off which enemy is most likely to drop it, with the exceptions of dark matter, which we've only so far found in chests, and the serenity power, because though we have access to the area where that enemy will appear, we don't have the means. For the time being, the magic armlet is extremely nice to have, once again giving us a valuable extra MP. Now I'm willing to bet if you're missing any of the necessary materials here, it's the Frost Shard, dropped by Blue Rhapsodies, which mostly appear in Olympus where the Heartless are a bit more stingy. If you do need them, they appear all around Traverse Town. Your best route is going to be through the back alley, into the green room, then the hallway, and if there's no sniper wild in the second district, then there will be a few more in the center of the square. Just keep going around until you've got all you need. Also, I know you're probably thinking, what in the world? That drop rate is insane. It's gotta be like 1 in 7 trillion odds you're getting these kind of drops this consistently. And listen, it's alright. I can assure you, the odds are no worse than 1 in 100 million. Also, I'm thinking of making some aesthetic changes to the channel. You know, maybe wearing a mask, kinda like this. What do you guys think? If you've got extras, kitting out Donald with extra MP is of course a good idea, but it's about time to wrap this up. Last thing in the workshop for now, check out this little note on the wall for postcard 9 out of 10. I want to impart to you just how much we've grown over the course of a single world, both narratively and mechanically. By taking out Jafar, we've made our first notch in Maleficent's Cabal, something that's been set up since the early game. And that Olympus time trial I barely scraped by with 11 seconds to spare? With all the tools we've picked up, we can smoke it in half the time. While I go about that, let's talk theming. Sora and Aladdin have a fair bit in common. Both happy-go-lucky kids with something to prove, but none of the means to prove it. Their lives are changed when a magical object falls into their hands and opens doors they never could have dreamed of. But at the heart of Aladdin's story is an extremely important moral. It was never the genie or his wishes that made Al special. It was his heart. The fact that he saw Genie as a friend and not a tool. Now Sora's been kinda drinking the Keyblade Kool-Aid for a minute here. Long past his refusal to the call phase, he's embroiled himself in this grand epic, challenging foes 10 times his size, sealing the keyholes and protecting these worlds from darkness. He's kind of it, isn't he? But now we have to wonder, is that just because of the Keyblade? Cut to Riku on the dark side of the coin, who seems to be making that same journey in reverse. The Keyblade didn't come and turn him into a hero. He's out there scrapping on his own, making bargains and friends in low places to meet his needs. A neat little thematic throughline is that, in theater mode, this cutscene is called Riku's Wish, but it's hardly the same as Genie's brand. Jasmine, the other princesses, and who knows who else are paying the price of that wish. We've already considered what Sora might do in his shoes, but how would Riku fare in ours? A difficult question to answer, and one that I'm going to conclude this chapter on. Agrabah is behind us. We're more powerful than ever before, and the road branches ahead yet again. As always, if you wish to see the next world right here, right now, then I can grant your heart's desire if you head on over to my Patreon via the link in the description. You and everyone who supports me there get to see things early access style, and receive my glowing and lavish gratitude, like so. Amiri the Grey, she's the legendary hero spoken of in Chinese, Welsh, and Madagascan legend. Raven, who can produce any currency from thin air as long as he acts like he's pulling it from behind someone else's ear. Rockington, which looks great in every imaginable hat, from propeller beanies to Suleiman the Magnificent's crown, we've checked. Soup, who's classified by most governments as exceedingly deadly, and the rest of them as exceedingly gorgeous. More obsessive thanks to Janku, Chris Bradell, the Humble Oscar, Sato de Sable, 10-Beat, Kane Lowwind, Rucksack 358-2, and my many, many other breathtakingly incredible patrons. You guys are my wish come true, and I will see you in the next one.